everybody, and welcome to Talkin' Tuesday. I felt special because I match again today. I have my little red ring, the little bow. Super duper cute. They're actually two, but that's okay. And then my earrings, they're kind of clinking around, so if they bother you, comment and tell me not to wear them ever again. And if they're okay, then just tell me they're okay. But today we are going to talk about why shouldn't we pick our acne. And this is actually a question that I had. I was always told, Cassandra, Cassie, Cass, never ever ever pick your pimples. It's just going to make them worse. Okay, but why? I really want to know why these things are going to happen if I pick, why is my acne going to be worse? So I actually drew a little diagram here to teach you guys a little bit about the layers of the skin and why we shouldn't pick and all these different things. Yeah, and also kind of the difference between whiteheads and blackheads and things like that. And I'm going to kind of go through this with you so that you guys understand. First things, whiteheads versus blackheads. Blackheads are those little things we might get on our nose or something that are really, really obnoxious. Little black dots all over, and you squeeze them and they kind of come out all curly, right? Whiteheads, on the other hand, are these big white, like volcano things, and you pop them and pus shoots out. What's the difference? A blackhead is a pimple that just never has that skin going over the top. It's just open. And the air oxidizes it, which is why it turns black and we can squeeze it out. Now, a whitehead is a blackhead, only it has a layer of our skin, the epidermis, a little bit of those dead skin cells all clogged up, and it's sitting there on the top and it can't get out. So that's why it's all white and we pop it and it's like, ew, etc., etc., etc. So that's the difference between a whitehead and a blackhead. And a whitehead, it's not like actual skin, it's just, we have all that extra stuff up on there, right? And we're squeezing out the stuff in that sebaceous gland. So also, why shouldn't we pick? I'm sure we all know that our hands are full of bacteria. When we pick, of course, we are getting that bacteria and spreading it all over our face. We're like, hey, bacteria, come over here, let's all go around and have some fun on our little pores. That's not what we want to do, because that is the more bacteria that grows, the more it's going to clog our skin and really promote that growth of that gross stuff. So what happens is that whether we're, touching our face or whatever, bacteria goes into our skin. So here's kind of the diagram. Hope you guys can see it. So right here, down here, this is the dermis. This is the very bottom of the skin, the last layer. This is the top dermis. This is the epidermis, right? This area up here is constantly sloughing off. It's the stuff that we exfoliate, right? Anything you guys know from the scarring video, this video won't make sense if you guys don't see the scarring video. Go see it right now. Scarring video, we know that blood comes from the dermis, right? If we touch the dermis, we're going to get a scar. What is this thing? This thing is a hair. We have hairs all over our body. The only place that we don't have them is our hands, the palms of our hands, and the soles of our feet. Everywhere else on our body we have them. So this hair is growing in a follicle. This big old circular thing, I hope you guys can hear me behind the paper. Here we go. So this big old circular thing is a follicle, and this right here is a hair. As you guys can see, the hair kind of comes out at the top, and there's the skin that kind of, surrounds the hair. What happens is the bacteria kind of gets up here, and it travels down the hair follicle, and it gets somewhere in this little thing. Right here, this is the papilla. This is where the hair grows from. When we shave, we're only cutting it off right here. When we wax, we're yanking this whole thing out of all 7 layers of these skins and taking out the papilla with it, so it won't grow back as fast because it has to grow all this way instead of just go boop. So that's shaving. Anyways, so right here, as you guys can see, it can go down into this little follicle. And what happens is that this follicle says, there's something foreign in there. And it will take this little guy, a sebaceous gland. Sorry, this is on like the back of a really awful paper. Exhibit B, travel policy and procedure. Yay, traveling. Okay, so what this is a sebaceous gland, and this pumps out the oil, kind of lubricates everything, and when we have too much of it, and when it gets clogged, this here is just some sweat stuff. When it gets clogged, and when this comes too clogged up, you see the epidermis is supposed to exfoliate. When it doesn't do that naturally, it gets clogged, so we can't get anything out here. So this says, we can't get out. And this starts growing and growing and growing. It gets enlarged and swollen and inflamed, which is why a little bit of Advil might help your acne. And eventually it's like, and it's all up in there and it can't get out. So it causes this whitehead. Or a blackhead, it's not clogged up here. You just don't have, you just have this full of pus. So what happens when you pop a pimple? Most people are going to pop and they're going to squeeze the skin, squeezing the skin, because here's the top of the skin. That's also why a lot of people exfoliate or give you skin thinners for acne, because they think, oh, your top is not sloughing off. But for cystic acne and stuff, it's all the way down here. Trust me, they don't know what they're talking about. Exfoliating will help a little bit, but you really want to make sure that you're hitting the problem with whatever source it is, whether it's your food, whether it's your diet, whether it's your environment, whether it's something you're putting on your face or not putting on your face, you know? Anyways, so when we pop, we're just popping here. So what does that do? That takes all of this junk in the sebaceous gland and goes whoosh. So yes, some of it comes out, but some of it stays in deeper. And when that stuff gets down here, woo, does your skin get angry? So it's going to go da, 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 and it's going to get really, really angry, and it's going to pump out even more and more. So what happens is that might even break through and spread here. This is a blood vein, right? The dermis needs blood. Your little hairs cannot grow without blood. So down here at the dermis, this is where all the blood is. Sometimes that pus will even get into a little bit of that blood and kind of travel a little bit over. And then whoop, let's say there's another follicle here, right? Imagine another follicle here. So the pus from this goes whoop, and whoosh, all of a sudden we have another follicle, and it's got the exact same inflammatory stuff because the bacteria from here went into the blood and just traveled a little bit, you know? Imagining there's another follicle here. But, so that is why it is bad to pick, because when we pick, we are just pushing some of it out, but we're pushing the rest down deeper. Grody, right? If you have to pick a pimple, what should you do? You should take a sanitary needle, not your fingers, because otherwise we're spreading bacteria around here on the top and then infecting more follicles over here, you know? But you should take a very sanitary needle and just prick it very, very gently, because when we pop this, if it's crusted over, when we pop it, we're putting a big hole in there. We're rupturing that. Hi. We're putting a big hole in there. We're rupturing that, right? It's like, phew. Now, if we use a very small prick, we can kind of wiggle the pimple out gently. So take 2 tissue papers kind of right here on your fingers, and you can kind of go around the pimple and just kind of slowly, slowly wriggle out. And it'll come out smooth instead of just popping through and breaking the skin. Okay? So that is why we get a pimple if we pop. Now, there is a way to pop a pimple that you will not infect yourself, but you will get a scar. I'll tell you about that. And that's kind of what I did down here. And that's kind of what I used to do down here, which is why I have a lot of scarring there. You guys can go check out, it's a nose itch, not a pick. You guys can go to some of those videos and kind of see my scars, kind of the dairy update video and stuff. But right here, what happens is that if we can squeeze deep enough, if we can, you know, instead of just popping our pimple right here, if we can squeeze all the way into the bulb, what can we do? We can squeeze this out from below the sebaceous gland. So the sebaceous gland, normally we squeeze here and the sebaceous gland goes up and down. Instead, it's going to squeeze out up because we're going whoosh. So we're basically taking our fingers and going really, really deep and getting all the way down. So what that will do, that will kind of break this papilla, which will cause blood from the dermis to fill this follicle. So all of a sudden, instead of being filled with pus and a little bit of oil, it's filled with blood because we are irritating this, we're breaking it, we're hurting it. So there's blood in here. We can then squeeze that out, and this blood will come up and wash out everything in here and pop. So that's why when you pop a pimple really, really deep, sometimes you get blood. That means that the follicle is completely cleared. Problem with that, and yes, it won't cause you to break out more. Problem with that is that you will have a huge, huge scab, and guess what? We know from the scarring video, if we touch anything to the dermis, we are getting a scar. Scarring automatically. So you're going to have a fat scar there, and it will never, ever go away. Don't ever do it, unless you can do some things to diminish it. The acne scarring video is something you need to go look at right now. But you can diminish it, but it's really, really not super, super easy. But what happens is that scar, like if we put a needle in, you know how sometimes we get our blood drawn? Even if you can't see that scar, there is a subdermal scar. And I can see my scars because I used to be a living pin cushion. Oh my gosh, my knee, because I have rheumatoid arthritis, my knee is full of scars. And I have a couple over here from getting blood drawn. But do you guys see, like, where you get the blood drawn, you do have a little scar. That's because that needle went into the dermis and ruptured it. So anything that touches the dermis will cause you to scar. So you're going to get scars on your face. But that is why, in essence, you should not pick pimples. What is the best thing to do? I really like retinoid creams. I can just pop them right on the top. Not pop them, but I can place the retinoid creams on the top, and in one day, that pimple will leave me alone. And I'll be like, woo! Because it kind of flakes off. And I will get flaky, but it's better than having a pimple there that I'm tempted to pick. So yeah, that is why you should not pick pimples. I hope that this video was informative and not too long or crazy. But I love you guys. Stay tuned tomorrow for Winning Wednesday. Yesterday was Music Video Monday, which is actually a Halloween tutorial, so that's okay. But today is Talkin Tuesday, and the week is going to be wonderful. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see y'all soon. Bye.